So the topic I want to talk is decentralizing media. My name is Jacques, and you can find my handle as Buleno on the Steem blockchain. We'll get into that in just a little bit. So, in this presentation, I'll talk about why decentralized media. I'll talk a little bit about the network information economy, and I'll talk a little bit about the growth of this new kind of platform for posting and organizing media. So, media distribution. I want to talk a little bit about how media is distributed today. So, on the right side, on your left side, we have centralized media distribution. So that's newspapers, that's television, that's radio. And the common theme in these three is that they are one-to-many. So you have one source, so that's either your New York Times or your Boston Globe. And for television, that's like Fox News, CSNBC. All these are American companies, because I'm American. I don't know what the situation is like here in Portugal, but I'm assuming it's the same thing, where you have a few big media companies controlling the distribution of information. And obviously you have radio. All these centralized services have a feature which is they're one-to-many. You have a source and distribute the information out to many other people. And then on the right side, you have decentralized media distribution. That's like Medium, YouTube, and Twitter. So on these platforms, they are a decentralized group, meaning they are from person to person. So as an individual, you can publish on Medium, YouTube, or Twitter, and you will get your message out to many other people. And then they could do the same thing. Whereas in traditional centralized media distribution, you as a viewer, you as a reader of a newspaper cannot write your own news articles. You as a television viewer cannot start your own channel. And you cannot start your own radio. But on these platforms you can. And that's because now we have internet, anyone could go on the internet and post and publish themselves, and that makes it much easier. So why centralized or decentralized? So the reason why a lot of media platforms centralized is because the cost of production is very high. It takes a lot of money to produce a newspaper. It costs and to distribute it out to a massive amount of people. It takes a lot of money to produce a news channel and then to broadcast it out. But there is an advantage to this, which is authority. You can always refer to a certain person or a certain channel to say, hey, have you heard about the news today, about the weather? It's going to rain. Well, who did you hear that from? The Weather Channel. Okay, the Weather Channel is reputable. Everybody heard about them. You heard about Weather Channel, you heard about Weather Channel. We all got information from the same source. And if we trust that source, we could be pretty sure that it's true. But that also comes with a caveat, where because you trust one source of information, they could manipulate the data, manipulate the information. So weather is a banal thing, not many people care about and rely about the weather. But let's say you are a newspaper and you have some information about a certain politician. If that newspaper has an agenda and that was their only source of the information, it's pretty hard to figure out whether or not you're receiving the truth. Do you know that politician received a bribe? Or maybe the newspaper is just writing that he did, but there's no evidence for it. So why decentralization? Decentralization gives allows us to share information more easily. So if I know about something and I want to share it to you, and you can share it to other friends, that information gets spread a lot more faster. So instead of waiting for someone to tell you that it's going to rain tomorrow, I went out, it's going to rain, it's raining outside. I just came from outside, I came in and said, hey, it's raining outside. You don't have to go to a weather channel to check it out. And then you can tell your friends that it's raining outside and that information spreads. So with decentralized, information spreads a lot faster. Okay? So moving away from media distribution, I want to talk about media funding. With these centralized services, because there's a central point, all your fundings is centralized. But actually, with these decentralized distribution services, the funding is still centralized because Medium makes money off advertisers, and Medium decides which content creators gets to pay. So it's YouTube. YouTube decides which YouTube star gets paid. And Twitter, they start monetizing using advertisements as well, and you have a big enough Twitter following, you could monetize your account as well. But at the end of the day, it is the corporations behind these platforms that decide who gets to pay. So that, oops. And I'm gonna skip that. Actually, yes. So I'm gonna do a little jump and talk about economic systems. So this is a definition I took from Wikipedia. Economic system is a system of production, resource allocation, and distribution of goods and services within a society or a given geographic area. Why do I bring this up? Because you can look at each of these services as their own little economy. These are centralized economies. They have one big shareholder in the they have one big corporation and decide, and they get to choose where the resources, being the money they get from advertisers, goes. And the same thing for here. And for every economy there's a currency. So why do we have currencies? There's a few currencies in general. You have national currencies. There's currencies, like euros, like a US dollar, etc. You have digital currencies like game economy currencies. So if you ever play any online games, you're familiar with that. And now we have cryptocurrencies, which is the newest form of currencies that operate on the network. And getting into that. Okay, I feel like I'm losing you guys so far. Is everyone following so far? Yeah? Okay, good. Because I'm going to have to make another jump. We're going to talk a little bit about growth. So how fast do you think centralized systems grow versus decentralized systems grow?
Not very fast.
Huh?
Not very fast.
Which one's
Centralized.
Decentralized, not very fast.
No. Centralized, not very fast.
Okay. And the assumption is that decentralized grows very fast? Yeah, okay. That's true if you have the resource allocations done properly. So, just for some reference, YouTube is 13 years old and is now ranked number 2 website on the Alexa ranks, which ranks all the list of all the global companies. And to achieve growth to number 2 in 13 years is pretty impressive. But with these new platforms, like Twitter's a little bit newer. It's 11 years old, so not that much newer. It's ranked 13. They just started monetizing, and they monetize again. They have a central headquarters, and they pick out specific verified users, and those are the users that they pay out the advertiser revenues to. And there's also a site called Medium. Medium's only 5 years old, and it's ranked 274. Now that's not in the top 10, but that's still pretty high up in the top 300. And they achieve that goal only in 5 years because they have a system in place where the employees of the company actually decide where the advertiser revenue goes to. So instead of the employees being also the people they hire from the platform. So they have writers that go on the platform and then hire them to go into the company, and they give those employees powers to direct the revenue sources. And there's a new platform called Steem that's only 2 years old, and it went from nothing to now the top 1,000. It's currently ranked 942. So in the span of just 2 years, it climbed all the way up to the top 1,000, and it's projected to be within the top 300-400 by the end of this year.
What's the name again?
Steem it. Yes, so we're gonna go into that actually. So, who here knows anything about cryptocurrencies?
Anything?
Anything at all? Heard of it? Yeah? Anyone? Raise your hands. You have? Okay, cool. we won't go too deep into the whole cryptocurrency rabbit hole, but there's one called Steem, and it's a very interesting one because it's focused on content generation. So you can almost take a look at the Steem ecosystem as like a huge media network. So there are many platforms being built on top of the Steem ecosystem, just like how there's many platforms being built on the internet ecosystem. So here on the right, you have internet ecosystems. So Reddit, Instagram, Medium, YouTube, Twitter, SoundCloud, and again, all these still operate, even though they're distributed media systems, meaning they're peer-to-peer. You post something, you share with your friends share with your friends. Their financial model is still a centralized financial model. Whereas from the Steem ecosystem, once you join and you get, it's the users, each individual users decide how much money you gain. There's no Steem corporation that decides where the money flows. The Steem blockchain itself decides based on the users on the Steem blockchain voting on your content. So I'll show an example in just a bit, but for every internet media company there's in the internet ecosystem, there's an equivalent one on the Steem ecosystem. So we have Steemit, which is the equivalent of Reddit. We have Steepshot, which is the competitor to Instagram. We have Busy.org, which is a blogging site just like Medium. We have DTube, which is a YouTube competitor. DLive, which is a Twitter competitor. DSound, and that's a competitor to SoundCloud. And the interesting thing is that these companies, these platforms are very young and they're profitable from day one. So SoundCloud is losing money right now. It's losing money in the millions, and it's probably going to be shut down soon. YouTube is still very profitable. Twitch is very profitable. Reddit is very profitable, but Reddit was the whole reason the whole Steem ecosystem got started, because Reddit users started realizing, hey, we contribute so much to the platform, bring so many users, so many people to come on the platform, and how come no one gets paid? Like only the 20, 30 employees of Reddit gets paid, and that's a massive concentration of wealth in a very few people. So with that beginning, they wanted to create a system where the distribution of resources is a lot more fair, and they wanted to design a system where it could be used to generate growth just from the voting of its users. So we have Steem. This is taken from a previous two presentations that goes much deeper into Steem. This is just a brief overview, and you're gonna have a lot of time, so if you want to ask me about Steem related questions, just hold on and I'll answer them in just a bit. And again, Instagram, Medium competitors, D2, DLive, DSound, and then because of the nature of the Steem ecosystem, if you have Steem and you're invested in the platform, some interesting things happen. You can actually monetize a platform like D-Mania, which is a platform for posting up memes. And yes, you could make money from posting memes. And it is actually one of the fastest growing platforms of this ecosystem, just because the users like it. So when you get into the Steem ecosystem, you in effect become a stakeholder in the ecosystem. But you don't have to host content. You can actually just curate content. So you could start voting for stuff, and because you are the person who help kind of rank the content, you get rewarded. There's a theory in business of shareholders versus stakeholders. Shareholders being the concept that only those who have made financial contribution to the company gets to say in the company, whereas stakeholders is that anyone that's related to the success of the company financially or otherwise should get compensated. And Steem operates on the stakeholder model, where anything you do on the platform, whether that's posting content, whether that's commenting, whether that is just curating content, you get financial reward for it. So it gets you invested and draws you into the ecosystem. I'll be doing an in-depth workshop for Steem. If you're interested on learning how to post content and monetize, it'll be only for 8 people. Cost me €20. There is a registration fee of 5, and it includes a coffee by Domus, who is recording the video right now. So with that, that's it. This is my contact information, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Are you posting this on the meetup?
I will be posting everything on the meetup. Yes.
How do I make money?
You make money by signing up for Steem and posting up content. And then if you get enough viewers, they give you votes, you cash out your Steem tokens, which you can learn a lot more about in the workshop.
I have
Yes.
a ton of questions.
Yes, go on.
First of all, what's your involvement? What do you own Steem token?
Do I want Steem tokens?
No. What's your involvement?
With Steem?
Yeah.
I just find it as a very interesting platform, and I think it's the future of the internet, because the way I see the internet and how it became so valuable is because it was a huge store of information, and because this information, we can all go to this source of information and find useful stuff for us to benefit our lives. That with the growth of that store of information, the value of it increased as well. But the internet never had a way to compensate for content creation, but now we do. So I think one of the reasons why Steem is going forward so fast is because they simply pay people to grow that information. And it makes sense, when you pay people to do stuff, they tend to do that kind of stuff more. So eventually, I think, most of the internet's information will be posted on the Steem blockchain. And most of the companies will build on the Steem blockchain. And I think the technology is very sound. And I think a lot of interesting stuff will evolve from it.
So it's basically, sorry.
So do you own Steem token?
Do I own Steem?
Yeah.
Yes, I do own Steem tokens. Oh, and a very interesting thing about Steem is that you could go to my profile and you'll see exactly how much money I have. Everything is very transparent. So if you want to see how much I'm earning, well, I have to tell you, I have 2 accounts. So
Why do you have 2 accounts?
Well, this is my personal account, and this is the account I have for promoting new people. Because when you're getting started on Steem, it gets a little discouraging because maybe you don't know your way around. There are a lot of intricacies, a lot of there's different tags. You have to learn how to go to the right community, talk to the right people. You kind of have to do a little bit of networking on the platform. Just like any platform, if you want to get viewers, you got to know which community to go to. So that is the account I use to help promote new users and help them get started. So this is just me posting about my boring daily life. This is more my professional account. So that's what I have to do. Yes.
Okay. When you collect, that's like a question more related to the blockchain technology, I guess, but generally you have publishers or whoever, they have eyeballs and they monetize it because they get money from the advertisers.
Right.
They get euros, dollars, whatever.
Right.
So if I understand well, with Steem, there is a token process, so they raise about the kind of token, whenever there is a content is shared or viewed or read, or there is an engagement from the user and from the community. So if you create create a currency out of nothing. Then, so it's like a hypothetical currency that needs to be recognized to be exchanged in a regular currency.
So,
so my question is like if there is an equivalent of Steem's, how it works, like the exchange to the currency normally.
So there's two ways to do it, and the easiest way is just to come here, because Mark is in the process of setting a brokerage. So you just take your Steem tokens. That's a great point, by the way. So I did my presentation on Steem and Steem workshops, assuming you know nothing about cryptocurrency. So when you've earned these fancy Steem tokens, okay, well, how do I, buy a steak dinner, or how do I go get a beer with it? So
you can get a beer here with it.
You can get beer here with it right away, and you can also talk to Mark if you want to exchange your Steem tokens for euros. And I'm also working with, right now we have one restaurant that you go to spend Steem. I'm working with another hostel that you just, I'm not sure if anyone here needs to go to a hostel, but if you do want to.
But the restaurant is here in Lisbon?
Yeah, it's here in Lisbon.
Which
It's called Paso de Leña. It's nearby. I don't know the exact location, but they accept Steem. And then the other way is to online exchanges. So right now, when I was doing cryptocurrencies back in 2013, it was really hard to get your money out. But now there's a lot of exchanges, and I think if you're Portuguese here, capital gains, there's no taxes on it. So anything you earn on a platform, you just take it out into euro and you earn for free. There's no tax.
That is not perfectly correct.
Really? Okay.
The gain you make compared to the price you buy them, and when you sell them, if you make a capital gain on that, then there is no tax in Portugal, indeed.
But
if it's revenue from something that can be considered work, you're supposed to pay your tax.
Okay. So I guess this is more like freelance kind of.
Complicated.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Yes.
I have a question. It's the first time I hear about this platform.
Okay.
I think I need to research a bit more, but I don't completely understand where is the money coming from.
Yeah.
Like I know this is a different currency, and after hearing his question, I maybe have an answer, but so this is where, yeah, exactly what. I get paid in this currency, but who's
paying you?
Paying, yeah.
So the best way to look at it is if you are a very active user of, let's say, YouTube. You're a YouTube star, right?
Yeah.
You also know that, okay, maybe YouTube's not the best example, but let's say you're a very active YouTube star and Google doesn't want to pay you just US dollars. Google will instead pay you in Google shares.
Yes.
Just as valuable, there's an open market for it,
Yeah.
and you can exchange your Google shares for US dollars. It's the same thing with Steem.
Okay.
People don't like this analogy because there's a lot of legal issues of comparing tokens to shares. But in essence, you are taking a share of a ecosystem that has an open exchange for it. Because you get just like how you could redeem Google shares for US dollars at any time, there's a very big market for Steem. Steem is ranked 28 in the coin market cap, which is the crypto ecosystem, which means you could exchange it in most major exchanges. So.
But then with Google, we know that, or YouTube, that they get money from the advertisements, right?
Right.
So where are they getting the money from?
So,
because it sounds a bit like a pyramid scheme where I need to buy myself in. And
that's a great question. So right now, a lot of it is just from speculation. The cryptocurrency space is very hot right now. A lot of investors are investing their money into the ecosystem to help develop the technology. So I would think of it more like the internet companies back in the day. There are a lot of big internet companies, not all of them valuable, but a lot of them have very high evaluation. But their Steem is moving towards the advertising fund also. So you can actually see here, there's a promoted tab. And the interesting thing is that as an advertiser, you are treated just like a regular user, where instead of paying Steem, Steem the company to advertise your stuff, you pay Steem tokens. So let's say you are Coca-Cola. You see this platform with a lot of people on it. You want to advertise your stuff. Instead of paying the Steem blockchain money to advertise, you say, here's my content. I'm gonna put in this many Steem tokens that I purchased from the open market, so you can bump me up and more people will see it. So that's how it works. It would be as if instead of, so you know Facebook, there's advertisers on Facebook. It would be like if advertisers want to advertise on Facebook, they have to buy Facebook shares in order to promote themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
they do have a revenue from advertising.
Yes, it's not huge right now, but there's also something else that might be very long-winded, called smart media tokens that's coming out. If you are on Steem for any period of time, you realize that a lot of the contents are about Steem, and that tends to happen when the community is built around the token, right? So what the new concepts now is that you can launch your own media token, and what that does, you allow people to generate content for you. So you're in essence creating a free market for content generation, and then all that content is under your control and you can use your content somewhere else. So you're basically like, here's a pool of money, make me some stuff. If your stuff interesting, I'll give you money. But you're using it in a token form.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So that's another way that they're pivoting into advertising to make the tokens more valuable. Yes?
About the consumption of the content itself from the user side. So I have to go to Steem.com to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And if I share the content on on other platform, how does it work? Can I share it on Facebook, for instance?
Yeah, everything's free and open.
And then it brings the user back to the platform, right?
It would be if you share like a YouTube video.
Okay.
It's just.
I think that's a good question, actually. So I think the question is more like, let's talk about a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Picture is a great example.
Right.
So I take a picture, I put it on the equivalent of Instagram, on Steem. The difference is that when people like it, I earn money basically, right? Mm-hmm. So that's great. But now, if somebody put a link or whatever, copies this picture and put it on Facebook, I don't get any money out of it, right?
Yep.
So is there a way to address that problem, or it's just impossible?
Right now, there's not a mechanism for solving that, because everything you post on the website is assumed to be fair use. There's no copyright on the Steem blockchain. But I think actually that's wrong. It depends on the user. You can actually include, it's kind of like you posting your blog on the internet, right? You could include your Creative Commons licenses, I forgot what non-reproduce licenses. You could put your license on top, and if you really want to, and you have legal resources, you could go after an individual that we share your work without your permission. So, yes.
Okay, so this is basically like a platform where you could get free content on the one hand, and then the other thing is that people are gaining money from having an opinion, right? But because you gain money from participating, whether you like it or not, right?
You
were saying, if you are voting on a meme or a picture or whatever, you're monetizing your opinion, right? But the problem I see with that is that there are already some companies that are analyzing all of the stuff that happens on Twitter and other social media, which is sort of in a way more honest because you don't get anything out of it.
Right.
So wouldn't you be likely to be getting false information just because people the more they participate.
Oh no, I think Steem is a very biased platform. It's biased towards the Steem token holders.
Right.
Just like if you're a shareholder in a company, you want the company to be biased towards you, right? Because you have a stake in the financial success of the company.
But in a sense, that becomes like a centralized platform, precisely because I think the reason that decentralized platforms grow so much is because they work like a natural ecosystem. Like everything that doesn't really work just falls apart. But if you're upholding it yourself because you have an interest, that's when you start creating content that is not so good, which is kind of the opposite of the point of decentralizing.
I'm not sure if you create content not so good, but I think you would create very biased content, biased towards the users of the platform.
Right, but then how can you judge if it's good or not if you get something out of just?
Well, it's a very subjective thing. It just depends on what the other users on the platform think.
So does voting work? It's like you just like it or you don't like it, kind of like a
Yeah.
And every vote counts the same. Like
No. It depends how much share you have of the network. So it used to be they have some funny algorithm. Now it's just proportional. If let's say I'm a huge owner of the network, I have 10% of the network. My vote is going to be worth a lot more than someone who's just new to the network and only have 0.0001%. So my vote would pay a lot more money out to you.
But isn't that? I mean, I sort of see your point because it sounds very similar to someone like me who's like not really understanding the nitty-gritty of it. But it sounds very much like YouTube works then, because if you have more say in the company, you decide who gets paid, and it's basically then driven.
Oh yeah, no.
I think the mechanism is similar, but you cut off the advertisers, like the main source.
Yeah.
But I think the mechanism to create a high ground, you can work in a similar way that it works with Facebook and YouTube.
I just have to.
People that are paid to click on it, and so it's like YouTube or like something.
For me, it sounds more like an in an indirect advertising way, advertising strategy for the actual cryptocurrency.
It is.
So it's just a way of making that cryptocurrency visible.
No, I don't think that's all. If you think about it, cryptocurrency depends on everyone else taking that currency. Let's say I have US dollars. I was like, hey, let's say you're selling clothing. I want to pay you in US dollars. You're not gonna accept it because you operate in the euro system. That's just a disconnect. So the more people who hold a currency, the more valuable that currency becomes because you could use it at more locations and for more things. So it is a way to advertise Steem tokens, but there's also a technological side where if you want to build a system on top of Steem, you need to have Steem tokens. Like you actually have to lock up a percentage of the network in order to build like a platform like D2 or like to build a platform like Steepshot like this one, because you're technological wise, when you have your users posting on the blockchain, that requires you to have some reserve space on the blockchain that you could. Because if I have nothing, I could push as much data as I want on the blockchain. That would just spam the network and would shut down the whole thing. So it's their way of saying you have a proportional ownership space that you could use to the amount of tokens you hold. So there's a utility aspect, but there's also the currency aspect. Yes.
At the beginning, your assumption said centralized media was worse than decentralized media.
Yes, I was gonna get to that, so I'll finish.
We know like a Wall Street Journal is not perfect, but you have good information if you analyze it. But
which one you saying?
But in Twitter,
okay,
there is such fake news. Does Steem have something against that? Because like you saw recently on Twitter, there is a lot of scamming accounts like fake Vitalik buttering asking for money. So does Steem have guarantee against that?
So how do you think Twitter handles that problem?
They shut down accounts.
They shut down accounts. So Who shut down the accounts? Who shut down? Administrators. Why does administrators shut down the accounts?
Because user report it.
Because user report it, but also because if they let that kind of stuff happen, the people will trust the service less, right?
Yeah.
So there's a financial bottom line for them for their actions. So it's the same thing with Steemit, where there are organized communities that go around censoring content, meaning they say, hey, you plagiarize this post, we're gonna downvote you. And what that does is to push down the visibility.
And is there an action that users can do?
Yes, that's there's a thing called flag,
Okay.
where you just flag the content, and then it's really cool because everything is community organized. So this is flag. I'm not gonna flag it. Just so you can flag contents, and
So that's the opposite of a like.
that's the opposite of the like. So when you flag the content, when you flag content, what that
more?
Well, it's not like like you're flagging him, so you're kind of like
Like
showing,
reporting them.
reporting him.
no.
But what's the way of the
It actually is like, but I think that concept is too foreign to people, so they just change it to flags.
So if people just like it, even though you didn't do shit wrong, they can still push you out that way.
They could.
Okay.
Do you lose any money by
You
flagging
do.
somebody?
Do you lose money?
Yeah,
Any money?
flagging somebody, not by paying.
No,
Okay, so that's a problem.
but they lose money.
Yeah, but that's a problem. Anyway.
That is.
Because
It's anyways taxpayers' money.
You can get a civil attack like that.
Sorry?
You can get a civil attack like that. I mean, if an organization or a group of people want to push you down your post,
Exactly.
they just have to flag you and.
But they will have to have a share in the network.
Yeah.
They will have to have a share in the network. So they will have to have Steem in order to push you down very, very
Yeah,
low.
but there is no financial constraints to do
Well,
it.
so I think the value argument, it works like this. It's if they do really shitty things on Steam, the value of that will be reflected in the value of Steam. And so that's the economic assumption that they're trying to make. I'm not saying it's true. Not saying it's true. I'm just saying that when you look at what they're tying together, they're trying to say what we do on Steam is going to be reflective of the value of the Steemit token, and we want the Steemit token value to go up. So we're going to create good content on Steemit. So that's what they're trying to say. I'm not saying it's going to work, but it's definitely it's interesting.
Or if you have a large stake in Steem and let's say I just, for whatever reason, don't like someone.
Like Roger.
Huh?
Like Roger.
Roger, yeah.
Like Roger.
Yeah, it's a good example because you have a lot of supporters, but a lot of people who hate him. So I think there is more people who hate him than support him. So try to push him down, not push the value of Steam down.
But he has also a lot of money to push himself up.
Right. So it's not perfect. The system's not perfect, but it is interesting because I think what's cool about it is that if you look at Twitter, right? Like Twitter's going to censor your content because it lowers the value of Twitter if they don't. But whereas in this case, it's people are going to de-like it because it lowers the value of the Steemit network. So and once again, it's not necessarily true, it's just that that's what the idea is. So it's slightly more fair ethically than Twitter and these other content systems, but I'm not saying it's better or perfect.
I just want to bring up one very interesting example before I answer your question. There was someone from BitConnect that was on the platform. In case you don't know what BitConnect... Damage Colin? So if you don't know who he was a huge scammer. He was someone who was involved in a huge pyramid scheme in the cryptocurrency space, and he actually had a huge share of Steem tokens. But what happened was people found out he was involved in BitConnect, and they started downloading everything. So the value of his account actually started lowering, and he just decided, you know what? I don't want to sit here and lose my money. I want to exit the ecosystem. So it's a very interesting, for me, that was a very interesting thing to see how the community self-regulated who gets to be in and who gets to be out. So yes, it's not maybe from a political, if you're talking about a country, then maybe it's not so fair that you just kick people out because they don't like opinions. But but from like a company perspective, like who we want to keep in, who we think is gonna be good for the community, that's a feature I think rather than a bug.
And also just to add to that, like I think it's the beginning of the economy of reputation. That's not like just our physical economy. It's like that's what we have now. But like with this, like with this digital space, it's like the beginning of seeing like a different kind of reputation system. But yeah, there's definitely game theoretical flaws. Like you can definitely target the system. I think for a while even a lot of the system was a bunch of millionaires and billionaires putting money in and then people just spending it. And it like was really bad. So like that was at the very beginning when they like just launched it.
I didn't.
Yeah, there was like because they hadn't properly parameterized what the initial settings were going to be. Like people just found out that they could just easily manage the system, and it ended up just like spending all these whales' money.
Okay.
Yeah, but they eventually like tampered down on some of those settings, but like it's just like to show you how crazily unstable it was when it started. So
it's still evolving. It's only 2 years old. The whole ecosystem. Yes.
Technical question.
Yes.
The votes, are they at the blockchain level or at the application level?
They're at the blockchain level.
Great. So that means
Sorry.
yes.
That means,
So what you have on the screen right now, Steep Shot, is like the equivalent of what a website would be in the internet world. So it looks like a website to you, which is great. It's also one. But Steemit is another website, and DTube, the YouTube thing, is another website. And my question is, if I like something, is it recorded at the website level or at the like global level? Because instead of having each website knowing which likes are where, it's actually lower. It's at the protocol level. It's like if the internet knew who liked your post or not.
Yeah.
And there is nothing preventing somebody creating a Steemit 2 with a different ranking system. Right? It's like
and there will be Steemit 2s.
Yeah, exactly.
There already is many coming. So yeah.
So it's like different journals have different opinions, and that's perfectly fine because you want diversity in your opinions as well. But in the Steem ecosystem today, you have one blockchain recording this reputation, so no matter which website you create, you will have the same opinion going everywhere in the world. So
same. Let's go on.
opinion. So yeah, I didn't know that. So my question is, do you think there will be forks of Steem going forward, specifically for like political reason? Let's say in Bitcoin on Reddit, we have /r/Bitcoin, which is the cool people, and then we have a /r/BTC, which are like the whatever people.
Okay.
So we have a split, even on Reddit, we have a split entirely on two different communities.
Okay.
And if you post the same link on both, it will go up in one, it will go down in the other one, and vice versa. Because people just have completely different opinions. Exactly like if you started to put a Trump comment and I don't know, you take whatever platform you want, but if you like Trump, you vote. If you don't like it, you will downvote. Even if the content, you might actually agree with it or whatever, just because of the people or because of your opinions. So at the Steem level, it's not possible, right? Because the majority will be right. So if you're in the minority, you always downvote it.
Well, do people who on r/Bitcoin care about what people are saying on r/BTC?
Yeah, a lot.
A lot? Okay, then.
But we
They're
don't
always
know
bashing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just a game of bashing each other. It's not.
And the vote on politics.
It's.
A war.
Well, I don't know how.
In terms of content.
Okay. Well, I don't know how it works in that setting, but what happens you see a lot is that there will be divergent communities, but there will be like non-overlapping communities. It's very, I wouldn't say it's rare, but it's not often that you have something like r/Bitcoin and r/BTC who talks about the same thing.
Let's say politics.
Yeah.
So politics is one of them. Like one of the things that people don't agree ever.
Yeah. Right, but you wouldn't but you have something, on Steem you will have something where you have a discussion forum for left politics and right politics. And then they wouldn't really interact. I think they do, but
could, right? Downvote
they
each
could.
other because it costs them nothing.
Sorry?
It costs them nothing to downvote the other guys.
Yeah.
So Because they don't seem
There's
nothing
no
to be spent.
repercussion whatsoever.
Yeah, so
Well, I mean, there is repercussion if they decide to fight back.
What?
So let's say he's doing r/Bitcoin on the Steem blockchain. I'm doing r/BTC. He's downloading my stuff. I decided, hey, everyone on mine, then go download his stuff. He's causing me economic damage. I might cause him economic damage. What that happens is, and this is also really interesting. There's a period back then when there's two very big stakeholders in the system called whales. They're just fighting each other. What happens is that they kind of just destroy each other's economic value. But the interesting thing is when you downvote, not only do you take money that he was supposed to get, you take that money and put it back into the community pool. So it actually made everyone else very rich when these two guys were going at it. Eventually, the fight fizzled out because they have no more money to fight, and then everyone else just kind of reap the benefit of their fight. So
You basically colonize the ideology of the platform and then it just becomes that. Because one of the two is going to win, right?
no, I mean they gotta damage each other. It's not just like
the opinion. If you have two whales fighting, one of them has to come up, and the other one, like one of the opinions.
no, they destroy each other. They just completely wipe each other out.
no.
Yeah, but in your scenario, both whales was equal.
Yeah.
Imagine you have one just a bit
Yeah.
more powerful.
And that's also, by the way, saying that finance is going to determine the sole outcome of what is right. Which is not necessarily the optimal outcome.
Not what's right, but what's right in the eyes of the specific community.
Sure, but I think the problem is just quite simply the person with more money wins on Steem.
On Steem, yes.
Yeah. And
So
I think,
that's why I'm saying like
Right.
it's much better to look at it from like a company perspective because you have the largest share in the company.
Yeah.
You should have a bit more say in that company. And what's sorry. That's why I'm saying like Steem is not a news media outlet. It's not meant to be unbiased. Actually, it's very biased, and that's why it's great for advertisements. And they gotta do something called smart media tokens that allows you to do your own Steem tokens, and you can start generating content on a specific topic that you want. Now, you could do one that's like, hey, we're gonna follow these journalistic procedures. We gotta give the biggest shareholders, like journalists or or news organizations. They gotta have the biggest stake, so they could download content. They could use that structure to achieve something similar to journalistic integrity, but still be open to like that. Just still using that system to distribute resources to help onboard new journalists. Like the structure is a means to an end. Whether that end is to propagate a certain idea or to it's a means to an end to propagate a certain idea. Whether the idea is journalistic, whether the idea is commercial, whether the idea is something else like political. That's up to you, right? And all it does is allow you to use the structure to achieve that goal. It's a means to the end, not the end itself.
You don't really understand how it works is the newsfeed in that sense. I mean, as a user, I open Steem and how is it organized, the content that they see, and if it's different from each user or like a follower system?
If you just go on Steam you didn't sign anything. You just see the ranking, which is according to popularity posts, and that usually means which posts are earning the most money. But if you sign up and you start following people, so I can follow you, and you have a fee. Every time you post something, I'll see your posts, and then obviously there's gonna be other interfaces built on top where they filter out certain content, maybe. Like Steepshot doesn't show most Steemit posts because they're more focused on image. So it really depends on which interface you have interacting with the blockchain. Yes.
So someone was saying, I think you were saying that there would be a Steemit too, and before that I was thinking, this sounds a little bit like a more centralized form of buy me a coffee. So instead of having all these websites where they have a link, buy me a coffee for what you learned from me or whatever, you would just have one platform on which you have all these different information things that you can just give a like to, and then they earn like ever so little, but from a lot more people.
Exactly.
And then you could just use like Amazon sort of AI to to see like, well, if you tend to like this, then you're probably going to like
Oh yeah.
something
Oh,
else.
that's another. Well, I don't want to get too deep into it, but bots are a huge thing on Steem, and it's a topic of controversy, but I think it's super interesting because one, you sorry. Most bots are built on like massive amount of data, which Steem has, but now with Steem, what you have is also financial transactions. So you actually build bots that gather information and make financial decisions and operate. So there could be autonomous companies being created on the Steem blockchain. They're like voting services now, but I think it's not evolving to something much more sophisticated. So imagine like they start posting company reports, right? Company reports on, let's say Apple just someone push Apple's quarterly earning. They can have a bot that analyzes that information, and let's say they have a code that makes a transaction on Steem to another Steem account that's an exchange account to buy more Apple shares based on that information. So I think a lot of very interesting things gonna happen because I don't think we ever had like a way where we combine information and financial transaction together at the same time. Like there's always that disconnect because like you have to gather information somewhere else and then do your financial transaction somewhere else. But now we have everything in one place. So that's gonna make it quite interesting.
You have like automatic.
It's a media economy that's within itself, autonomous to some degree. So I think it's a little less about, the fail-safes of blockchain and stuff, and a little more about like they've created an economy, a participatory economy that people want to participate in to do certain things, and it's a slightly different approach. But I don't think that's the main feature.
I think I'm not sure we're speaking of the same thing. I'm talking about like the average person would have more access to sort of bot-like services instead of now bots are kind of hack. Like you have to be big to have bots working on something.
Okay.
But if there was like these consultancy services on the platform where people vote on it, analyzing stuff, then everybody would be able to. You wouldn't have to hire a big company that uses bots to analyze stuff.
Yeah, you can hire a bot on Steem blockchain. That's why I'm saying it's really cool because what you could do right now is you send a little bit of Steem to a certain account, which is a bot account, and there's some code ready. It reads that transaction, it knows it has been processed, and does the operation on the blockchain.
Right, like big algorithms would be available for small players.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's kind of, I'm not sure if that's the way right now, but yeah.
Well, right now it's similar, but it's not necessarily with that interface. Like right now, you're getting tons of AI working around you, for you, because someone's paying that AI to get things in front of you that you're going to like. So it's a slightly different system, and it comes at the problem from a different perspective. But I think with Steem, you may get more autonomy in how you hire those bots on behalf of you.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, so it's a little more experimental than what's available now. Because now it's just like, Google and stuff are sitting bots in front of you to try and see.
Right, that's what I mean, that would be decentralized for users to use bots as opposed to right now.
It's more about the data than the bots. It's just the fact that the same data is available to everybody and it's not firewalled behind the company.
Right.
So it's not Google owning the data, it's just the blockchain, and the blockchain, what is the blockchain? It's just basically sharing the data with everybody as of today. Mm-hmm. So it's not stored in a specific server that's behind a firewall, it's just data that you get for the better or for the worse. So right now on Steem, I can just analyze it and know exactly what political party Jacques likes, which is his favorite color, what cars he likes, what food he likes. This is potentially pretty bad as well, right?
Yeah, so everything you put on Steem is public and it's recorded forever. So you don't want to put anything.
Well, as long as the Steem network will pay for it, but I don't think.
No,
somebody will do it.
Right. So the thing is I think
it's naive to think otherwise. Actually.
Yeah, it's more. I think so long as people care about it, they'll keep it. Yeah.
I mean, no. Like, the Steem blockchain just keeps text data.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I know, but the thing is like,
you think it's gonna grow so big that they're gonna
well, so the problem is that with all these services,
uh-huh.
they end up having all this data and they can't really account for how they're going to do that, so they offshore it to my friends, and my friends are paying for it. I'm not joking, there's 3 people sitting there doing it. And like, the reason why we know that is because things like D2, like, tried to hook up to them, just like shore petabytes of data to them, because they're wide open.
Yeah, the D2 thing is interesting because they use the video is not recorded on the Steem blockchain. It's just the hash of the video is recorded on the Steem blockchain.
Exactly, and
The
so,
video
so
itself is
that
hosted
hash
somewhere.
has to sit somewhere, and somewhere is on a server that my boss is paying for. Generally speaking, when it comes to a lot of this content, in terms of their IPFS hashes, like,
Actually, no. We have what's called witnesses on the Steem blockchain, and those are the guys hosting the files, hosting the blockchain data.
Right, so with Steem, I think that's true. I think it's just with some of these other systems, like, they're currently relying on hugely centralized providers to effectively store and make available at a moment's notice that content. And the thing is, it's not necessarily storing, it's having high availability. So like, a real problem is like, sure, everyone can store this data, but can they make it available to you in a millisecond notice? Like, no. In general, most peer-to-peer systems suck at upload, they're really good at download. So it's a real problem, it's like a very, very serious problem in most of these ecosystems. But with Steemit, because of the way they've structured their system, I think they've incentivized certain people to hold a significant amount of data and make it widely available. So to make the system function and make it somewhat redundant. But it's a huge problem not only in these systems, but in actual functioning blockchains right now.
It's the same. No matter which blockchain you're using, it's the same problem.
Yeah.
So the problem is that because there is no company and because we don't want anybody to be in control, everybody has to participate and they are not compensated for that. Which is going to be a massive problem. Right now everybody is just ignoring it or working on it, but we don't have solutions.
Storing the Bitcoin transaction data?
Bitcoin transactions, right? Like having a full node.
Right.
It's costing quite a bit of money.
And
It's just text recording your transaction, right? Well, text no, but just very short amount of data for each transaction. If you're trying to put videos, you have to have somebody storing this video.
Right.
And you don't want to store all the videos and Steam video.
Right.
So, you need somebody to pay for that. And if they are not compensated for that, why should they?
So Steem has the call witnesses. Unlike Bitcoin, there is actually hard-coded into the technology where it pays out a certain percentage of created tokens to people who maintain the network. And the cool thing is that you can actually vote for those people. Like, you know who those people are, where they're located. To Bitcoin, that's a travesty because it's very easy for people to take those people down. But the assumption is that we will have enough people around, like widespread enough around the world, and if you know them, if we know they're in a politically unstable region, we're probably not going to vote for them because we don't want our survey getting down. We vote for someone who's in like a more stable country, let's say the United States, or United Kingdoms, or maybe I don't know, Cayman Islands. Who knows? Somewhere where it's more politically friendly towards our ideology on Steem. So,
which is actually, funny enough, is better than a lot of existing systems right now. Like, most existing systems don't have any incentive for anyone to serve available data. And so, like, at a moment's notice, like that's another thing. Like, when you open Steem, you don't want it to take 10 minutes to open Steem. Like, you want it to open right away. So, not only those people have to store that stuff, they have to run it most likely on highly available servers, and it's probably most likely going to be Amazon. So, in general, most of the world is on Amazon, unfortunately. So basically, it's a huge problem.
There must be, all of this has to be supported by sort of traditional money, right? Because someone has to be doing the security and all of those things.
It's so with some of this stuff, I think there's a lot of people who are speculating on Steem, who are subtly paying for the network to make sure that it functions. And it's not necessarily an implied feature, or it's not an explicit feature of the network, but it's an implied feature of most networks right now. So there's a lot of people who own a crap ton of Bitcoin, and they just pay people to make sure that the Bitcoin blockchain is available, because they have an incentive to make sure that data is available at a moment's notice. And so there are incentive systems working, it's just they're much more subtle and they're not explicit. They're not in the protocol itself. So, and there are major flaws in most systems. So, but at least with Steem, like, what's interesting is that at least they're somehow somewhat democratically voting for availability, like, and where that's going to be and what that means, and like that's actually somewhat more interesting than most systems.
Yeah, you're like monetizing the sort of reputation of Reddit.
Exactly.
Trying to get the same people.
Or running Reddit systems so that Reddit stays afloat. And like, trust me, I mean, most companies have this huge problem where like you create something like WhatsApp and you think, wow, this is great, it's really helping everyone. But what you weren't anticipating is 60 billion messages a day. Mm-hmm. So where do you store that? How do you make that available? Like, how do you handle that? And it's like, peer-to-peer systems are not ready for 60 billion messages a day. So it's like a really intense problem. It's like a big data problem. Yeah.
Do you guys think that is going, I mean, just like logistically speaking, is that going to be able to be solved in terms of peer-to-peer systems? Is it just a matter of incentives and motivating people to do it?
It's an incentive system problem, because it's already, the reason why WhatsApp runs is because of incentives. So we're already fixing the problem through incentives. It just so happens to be highly centralized providers. Mm-hmm. So the problem will be fixed, and there are people working on that. But it's currently an existing huge pitfall of every system we have, in the decentralized space. Yeah, it'll be great when it's fixed though. But the problem is fixing it's going to be really difficult, because if I'm a provider and I'm saying, okay, I want to provide highly available data for Steem, because I love Steem. What's probably going to happen is I'm probably just going to run it on Amazon, and they're just going to pay me. And so, is that really fixing the problem? No. What I should be doing is setting up my own data center somewhere and running that. But like, that's a whole huge undertaking. So, how do we get away from Amazon centralizing everything? Is actually even worse of a question than how we fix all of that. Because there's basically 4 major clouds, and it's like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, I mean, it's like, and Alibaba, yeah. So it's like, that's serving most of the internet right now.
So if you knock those 4 down, you knock out the internet.
Well, so even there was a time when 5 years ago, when one AWS zone went down 3 hours in New York, and the financial system was questioned, things blew up, a lot of sites went down, people lost a shit ton of their data. It was just a huge problem. So Amazon has not gone down since, which is actually remarkable. But it's still a massive, massive issue. But I think what Steem is doing is coming close to some kind of solution to that, which is really cool. Yeah.
It did last week.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, and the Argentine eBay, the Latin American eBay went up for 4 hours last week.
Right.
Or the week before maybe, because...
Right, not a total travesty, but a problem. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to hijack this presentation.
It's interesting conversation. He's really cool.
I have a question. It's not. It's kind of going down the road a little bit on the side of what we're speaking of.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how Snapchat is monetizing that? Because basically, so are they processing the information and just keeping sort of the juicy parts? After 24 hours it disappears, right?
Well, so it did for a while, but I thought Snapchat changed that model and they just held it forever.
Really?
Now they changed to holding.
I think so. It used to be.
So they hold the information, but it's not available. After
I would 80% gamble that that's an Amazon S3 cluster doing all the image processing and holding. So Amazon has a service for everything to do everything. So it's if you want to hold billions of images, they will set a price for you to do that. So it's really this big question about how do we get away from them, because it's a danger to the Bitcoin blockchain, it's a danger to all of these blockchains that they're highly reliant on massive clouds that are centralized and owned by a single company. So yeah, but yeah,
Bitcoin not really bad though, because we are aware of this problem and we are trying to
Wow.
not put any nodes on the cloud. So
right.
one of the Ethereum.
But then you know you don't have any apps, so.
Because I exist.
Okay,
They're
he's been
used-
waiting for a long time.
I
Yes.
got questions. The first one is does video hoster can choose which video they host or not?
Sorry.
Does video hoster
They can.
they
Yes.
can choose
It's
which
IPFS,
video
right?
Wait. The video hosters
Video, yeah.
can choose which videos they host or not?
or
It's on IPFS, no?
yeah, it's on IPFS. I
Yes,
mean, the
so
Steem
yeah.
blockchain just hosts the hash and like the link to the video.
Yeah.
How everything else is IPFS related.
So it's like BitAd, same principle.
And the people holding the IPFS stuff have complete discretion on what they want to hold. Like so in Pira, our provider of IPFS is storing. It's very small right now. I think it's only 4 or 5 terabytes a day of data. But like 2 weeks ago, they were like, where the hell is all this traffic coming from? And it was DTube storing porn. And it was just like, and then they like looked at some of the hashes and they're like, wow, we're like
Really?
moving 20 terabytes of data a second.
It's
here.
really
Like,
D2 point.
yeah. So
Oh, wow.
well, so it was just like, yeah, we're like serving a lot of them right now. And it's like, and they didn't really want to do that, so they were just like, well, you know, they thought we were decentralized and fair. We're like, no, fuck it, block your IPs. I'm like, just completely turn them off. Like, because they didn't want to like, you know. Yeah, there's stuff that you definitely want to serve, and then there's like, do you really want to serve porn for like other businesses? Probably not. At least not with the right incentives, right?
There's a difference between free speech and hate speech.
Totally, yeah, exactly. But it was really like they have way more interesting problems than what's being talked about right now.
But the point is that there is still a classic sort of division between free speech completely, like whether something is considered censored or not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Not
that's a
anymore.
very long debate.
Nowadays, yeah, nowadays it's the same.
Well, actually, that's a very good topic. I was actually thinking today because the Steem blockchain only stores text data, and I was thinking like a lot of very sensitive data, controversial data, like I don't know, that's porn, you know, child pornography being one of the most dangerous ones. You know, obviously that's something most people don't want. I'm not saying not everyone, but most people don't want, and like government files and that kind of stuff. But those are data, but mostly in different formats. So, like the only way I could see someone running a Steem node getting in trouble is if they like type out the whole copy of Mein Kampf in text and then store it on the blockchain. Like,
Or they hold like what Edward Snowden posted. You know,
Sorry?
so like then there's the thing where it's state level intervention. So like I don't think America would want highly classified documents being posted on Steam.
but like classified documents like just as text, so it's like plain text, then you can't verify if that document is true or not.
Right, but I don't think it's about truth. I think it's just about they know what they have, and they don't want this particular thing, so they'll lobby those providers to say, if you hold this, you will become an enemy of America.
Just
It's
the
like
text, just the text
And
data.
most people will not become an enemy of America. I mean, it's like,
Like
and it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Yeah. Oh no, even the Bitcoiners like are well under the watchful eye of America.
But
And
wouldn't that,
they
like,
are right in
that-
line with the American?
I feel like that would fall under free speech because you're just writing it out.
Totally.
But you still think that like
Well, so the thing is, in America, you don't have free speech either in Canada or
it's
most
the First
countries.
Amendment.
So the thing is, it's free
It's
speech until otherwise specified
Yeah.
as an act of war or an act of aggression.
And the very
So-
founder of Reddit ended up dead because he put stuff from a library.
Totally, I think that's like a speculative thing, but it's totally true.
some data like Shadow Broker on
Yeah.
Steemit,
Uh-huh.
you can really hurt the network.
Yeah, like,
Shadow broker, what's that? Can you
Was that's the
WikiLeaks types of.
right.
it's a database of all
like,
informatical attacks of anything.
Mhm. Right.
but you still like put it as a PDF to make sure like it loses.
It's plain text.
It loses.
It's just code, like
I don't
script
think
to attack some other people.
I don't think the format really matters here.
But like without the format, like you can't guarantee the validity of it. I mean, unless
well,
in my
the thing
mind.
is-
Exactly. That's why you should put it as plain text, because then everybody has to store it. They can't censor
Right.
it.
Oh no,
Okay.
totally. So there's definitely advantages to that format. I'm just saying that in terms of like what you're storing and what you aren't storing, like I think this is just an interesting problem. I'm not saying that like this is necessarily plaguing anyone right now, but like it's definitely a question where like if I'm in a particular country and they're censoring certain speech, it's like what is the responsibility of the provider? But the thing is, in the Steem system, is that as you said before, like they're tailoring the providers around what the situation is in the country. So it's fine. It's just like I think in some cases, like we want WikiLeaks to exist, and like WikiLeaks has a good redundancy system, but like I think we want a little more like democratic WikiLeaks or something like that, you know. But that's it's kind of a separate issue, but it's interesting. Yeah. Anyway.
So yes.
Sorry, from the content production point of view, it's like the Steem has like influencers or big names of journalists, musicians, so some of them are getting on board or
it's actually pretty great because a lot of I'm sure you guys may or may not have heard of the recent apocalypse that's happening over at YouTube. So what they're doing now is a lot of right-wing YouTubers are being pushed out because YouTubers don't like their political opinion, or the advertisers on YouTube don't like their political opinion. So they're being pushed out, and a lot of them are actually fleeing to a different platform like YouTube, because in that scenario, the only way they would lose their monetary reward is if the community, as a whole, reject them completely. Kind of like the guy with BitConnect. But in that, even with that case, it's a lot more difficult. It's still a way to push them out, but it's not like a company. It's not like YouTube saying we're gonna stop your advertising revenues completely just because our advertisers don't like. You have to convince all the active users on Steem to download your stuff, and then that brings me to another point I want to bring up. It's like centralization and decentralization is not just two different things. I think it's a scale, how's centralized and how's decentralized. I think one end you have, I don't know, Fox News. I think that's super centralized, and then you have on the other spectrum Steem, which is a lot more decentralized when it comes to media and information. So it's a spectrum. I wouldn't say it's
Well, and I also think too, it's what do you want out of decentralization in these cases? do you want privacy? Do you want anonymity? Do you want redundancy? Do you want all those things? That will really determine what the meaning of the decentralization is, because there's a lot of centralized systems that are actually highly decentralized that service everyone quite well. Like Visa, for example, is a company that is highly decentralized for a reason of redundancy.
What do you mean by redundancy?
So they don't want, if a Visa server goes down in New York, they don't want your card now to be processed in Brussels. So it's they're highly decentralized, but for the purpose of redundancy, not for the strength of the Visa network.
So the organization is centralized, but the technical infrastructure is decentralized.
So there's good reasons to have decentralization and centralization in different areas. It's and it depends on what you want out of it. But I think with a lot of this stuff, what we're looking at it is for ethics. It's we believe that in decentralizing these systems, we are making them more fair and ethical for everyone. We want to believe that, or we want to move toward that goal. So that's the whole thing. And I think Bitcoin to a large extent brought that to some kind of a reality earlier on. And so it's so we want to do that with everything else. Because it's is it fair that YouTube, does what they do to Republicans? It's even though we disagree with them, so it's what do we want? Do we want a more ethical video platform? It's maybe. So it just depends on, I think, what you're after with the design of the system, But yeah.
We should do a meetup on anarchism.
Yeah.
It is very interesting because, for example, the answer, the proper anarchist answer to is it fine that YouTube censor some political party or not is yes, it's perfectly fine.
It's in their business interest.
It's their business interest, so it's perfectly fine. If you're not happy with that, you can create your own competition to YouTube. Nobody's preventing you to do that.
Well, YouTube
if somebody prevents you to do that, then you're not, this is bad from an anarchist perspective.
But the thing is that's competition. I mean, competition continuously tries to make my life more difficult, so I can't do the things that I want to do. And so that's why I'm way more of a socialist than I am an anarchist, because what I like about certain systems, or at least I don't like to commit too deeply. So I don't like to commit too deeply to anarchism because I actually like really blurry certain situations where humans just have to interpret it on a case-by-case basis, because I've seen how it ends up working and I actually quite like it sometimes. So sometimes the answer isn't black and white. But I do lean on anarchism a lot for certain answers. So I think you can completely troll the troll to troll. You don't need to be black and white. I think it's a conversation.
But also every business is based sort of on a sense of a niche, right? Because if you don't have, the whole point of the business is, hyper reliability and hyper trust and all that has to happen if you actually trust the people taking the decisions.
Yes.
If everybody has something to say, it's the same as nothing.
Well, sometimes more.
Or your personal,
Yeah.
It's not saving you any work.
Sometimes highly democratic systems are extremely inefficient. I think we've seen that a lot. There's certain and I don't just mean governments. I mean, if we're in a room right now, and for the next 20 decisions that we make together, we have to make all of them democratically, it would really suck. To do that fairly and properly. And as well, it's not necessarily going to end to the outcome that we necessarily want.
Every brand is an identity that's saving you from reinventing the wheel. So they will actually give you a little bit of a rest in taking your decisions. Otherwise, they're not giving you any value.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So I think we rely on certain businesses to serve certain use cases, and we rely on them because we like them, or we rely on them because they solve a problem for us. And that's the basis of fundamental capitalism, which is good. Is the fact that if I want to go solve a problem, I'll just go do that, and if I do it well, then I'll be rewarded for it, in theory. And so, hence the basis of everything in this room, and this camera and Jacques headphones, etc.
And Steem ecosystem.
Yeah, to an extent.
Capitalism is not very good at being inventive, though, so it doesn't really.
Well, I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think,
it's the conversation.
This is another conversation.
I think we should split there.
Yes.
I want to ask a practical question.
Yes. Okay. So let me just
Question.
any questions related to Steem before we break off and you guys have great political conversations afterwards?
Yes.
Yes. Please.
One practical one.
Yes.
So, okay, I wanna, let's say I like it and I wanna go with it. What's the first step? I sign up, I have to pay, how does it go?
So there was three ways to sign up. One, you can sign up to steem.com. You get it for free, but you have to wait anywhere from 2 weeks, 2 months. Or you can sign up to different services. One of them's a non-steem.com, which makes sure your information stays private because Steem does ask for your email. Or you can sign up to someone like me. The thing is, the second two options, signing up to non-Steem or to me, there is a fee. Because there is a fee to create an account. Steem is big enough that they'll cover that cost for you. But that's also why they take 2 weeks to 2 months. Whereas me, you pay me $20, I can help you register your account, and then you get it instantly. So it's up to you.
What do you
fee on the token, right?
Sorry?
You have to burn tokens or something?
You have to burn a small amount of Steem tokens to register your account.
See, that seems like it wouldn't be great for adoption.
No, that's why. But if you want to build on top of the blockchain, you would just cover the cost for registering.
Right, there's a barrier to entry. Yes, I'm just saying I think with most media platforms,
no, that's why Steem covers it.
Right.
So they're big enough to cover, but I just don't have to have that kind of budget.
Right. And then with Steem, they're covering it out of a central pool of Steem, and then
because they were the big, they were the guy behind blockchain to begin with.
Right.
So, no more questions? All good?
Well, I have some of it if you want.
But we can talk a little over beer. So
right.
Okay, so that's my presentation. Thank you all for coming out Friday night.